You're listening to Season 3 of the Fairways People podcast, where we share inspiring stories, meaningful conversations, and the voices behind our charity. Each episode offers a closer look at the people and passion that drive us. Hosted by Fairways Managing Director Gareth Webb.
Hello and welcome to another Fairways People podcast. And today my special guest is Gethin Jones. How are you doing, Gethin?
I'm very well, thank you very much. Lovely to see you, Gareth. Always a pleasure, never a chore.
Cheers, mate. And I know you're really busy, so I really appreciate your time. And so what I'll do, I'll ask you, do you mind just introducing yourself for the viewers and the listeners?
So my name is Gethin Jones, I'm a human being first and foremost. Come from Portsmouth, okay. But I do have an organisation which is called Unlocking Potential, and I work very much within the public sector, but mainly within prisons, charities, but also some local authorities. And what I do is I try to help and train and develop staff so they can have better relationships with the people they support and serve. So it's about how to create human-to-human relationships in secure environments or where there's a power imbalance. But I also try to engage people that people see unengaged. And the reason why I do that is because too many people say that they're hard to reach, but I don't think they're hard to reach. We make it harder for them to reach us. So we try to really engage those people that are trapped and stuck, and we do consultancy work as well about how to create a system that's fit for purpose and fairest for all. And that includes the people that live within it, the people that work within it, and the communities it serves. And I've done that thumbs up on purpose.
I love that. That is pretty. That is fresh. That is professional. I like that, Gethin. So absolutely. What you do is really unique, and we sort of come across each other on LinkedIn, and we've met up a few times. And I think the work you do with some of the most vulnerable in our society is amazing. I know you're really big about that human to human relationships and about people change people.
Yeah.
And what you do, like I said, is quite unique. So I know there's been a journey of how you've got to that. So what I'd like to normally do with a lot of guests is just ask them a little bit about your childhood and where you grew up, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely. Just start first of all. We talk a lot about people who've got lived experience, lived experience of the system, or whatever system it is, But for me, also, I've got 55 years of lived experience of being trapped within a system or being. Oh shit! Now I need to say that again. That don't sound very good. I say shit.
That's all right. Carry on, mate.
Right. Can you edit it or what?
We're just going for it, mate. Just crack on.
All right, let me just start that bit again then. So I do apologise for that, viewers, but like you said, I'm a human being. I always say to people, I've got 55 years of experience of this system in one way or another. And what I mean by that in relation to the childhood, I was born into this system, So I'm a Portsmouth boy, and social services were there from the day I was born. And the reason why they were there was because my mum was care experienced, and my mum had come through children's homes herself. And what that meant was my mum didn't have the capacity to give me what it was that I needed to develop as a human being. I was also born into what they call a dysfunctional family, but I don't believe there's any functional families out there. You're all dysfunctional to a point. But part of that as well was my father was an alcoholic. Do you know what I mean? So there just wasn't the love, the care, the compassion, everything I needed to be nurtured to grow up as a human being. We talked today a lot about trauma, ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and I had numerous trauma and adverse childhood experiences that happened within my life, and what that meant was that I became a product of my environment, and what was around me. The first time I was taken away from home, I was only about 2 years of age. The second time I was taken away from home, I was 5 years of age. And by the time I was around about 8 or 9, my behaviour started to come out, from the trauma. And I started to push back. But what happened is I had professionals all around me. I always say you can probably find the first 35 years of my life in a filing cabinet somewhere. And what kind of happened was everyone just focused on my behaviour. Nobody looked at why is this boy acting in this way, and the more they focused on my behavior, it was like the further they pushed me away, because it didn't help me build relationships. It helps me start to mistrust, because nobody was ever trying to connect with me as a human being. I didn't feel care, kindness, compassion, empathy, understanding. It was just you're bad, you're no good, it's your fault. It's like all of this sort of stuff, and that's all. They just set me off on a roller coaster, you know. So I went into full-time care when I was around about 11, 12 years of age. But that was also when I got my first ever criminal conviction. Yeah, so the first time I was in Portsmouth Juvenile Court, I was just 12 years of age. Yeah, you know, and then when they put me into the care system, and I always think back because they gave me a care order, and I'll say this openly. Yeah, I always think about them two words, and I'll remember the order. Well, I'm doing balloons now, but I don't remember that much of the care. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And that's a reality. Yeah, that's the truth of what kind of goes on. Uh, and what happened was when I got into the care system, yeah, because I didn't want to be at home. I hated it at home. I absolutely hated it, yeah. And I don't say that word lightly. I was not happy at home. And and I thought going to children's homes was going to help. My brother had already been taken away from me. Yeah, he went away a few years before. I loved my brother dearly. He was somebody that I really loved, and I wanted to be back with me brother, you know. But you know, they didn't put me back with me brother because they understood because of my behaviour, and they was worried I might take him down the same path. And so I ended up in these children's homes, and I'm like thinking, I don't want to be here either. Yeah, I don't want to be in your homes. Yeah, I don't want to do what you say you're telling me to do. So I just started to run. And because I had nowhere to go, yeah, I was then sleeping rough in towns and cities across the whole of South of Hampshire, you know, Bournemouth, like even Southampton, Basingstoke, you name it. And because I was like sleeping rough on the streets and running away, I was doing more things I shouldn't do. You know, I started to do more crime. I'm sniffing glue. I'm taking amphetamines. I'm smoking cannabis. I'm doing all sorts of stuff. And my behaviour continued to get punished. I'd get moved from one children's home to another to another. And then literally 2 weeks after my 14th birthday, I was back in court again. And that was when I got my first prison sentence. 2 weeks after my 14th birthday, I went from Glen House, which is now Swanwick Lodge, straight into a detention centre, which was based on what they call short, sharp shock. We're going to scare you straight. And these places were filled with bullying, violence, and intimidation. And that, you know, I was broken before I went in there. That snapped me in half. But what happened when I went in there was this. Something inside broke that said I was never going to trust another living soul. And the only person I could depend upon was me. And I was no longer going to play your game. And at that point, I was unreachable. At 14, I was unreachable. And I just went off living my own life. And what that life goes, just going up to the end of my childhood, I calls it the full stop. So what happened was when I got out of the children's the detention centre, I was put back in Glen House. At that time, they had a secure unit called Medina. I was in secure unit at 14, secure unit at 15. And at the age of 15, I ended up then getting kicked out of children's homes and being remanded to the Winchester prison at the age of 15. And I called that the full stop on my childhood. And that was it really. I was just going to then play out my life wherever that took me.
Wow. That's that's a lot there. You know, that, you know, I'm just reflecting on some of the stuff you said there. Like, that's literally your childhood ripped away, isn't it? Like, in terms of, like you say, from 2 years old, you've sort of come into the care system, really. I know he's back, but so you've known no different. Um, and just that saying at 14, literally that snapped you, and you thought, you know what, that's it. I don't trust anyone again. That's quite hard hitting. Um, so you went into Winchester,
Yeah.
um, and then what happened from there?
So it's funny actually, because I went into Winchester at 15. Yeah. It's mad. Yeah. I could be locked up, but I wasn't old enough to buy tobacco. I couldn't even buy canteen, yeah. I had to do some deals with some people, so I'd buy 'em some sugar and some deodorant or something like that, and they'd get me burn, as we called it back in them days. And they called it burn because the roll-ups were so thin that it burned the back of your throat, so that's why we called it burn. But yeah, but to be honest with you, it was like just going into a bigger children's home. Yeah, so at the back of Winchester, you had the old doll's house, and the doll's house was just filled with my mates. Yeah, it was filled with my mates that I'd been in the care system with. Yeah, and so, like, I got in Winchester Prison. I knew people from Basingstoke, Southampton, Farnborough. Yeah, they were all there. Yeah, and it was just this melting pot of dysfunction. That's all it was. Yeah, and to be honest with you, I felt very comfortable as soon as I went in there, and that's really sad as well. Because the other thing we don't talk about is when people are in care, we institutionalise them. Yeah, they become institutionalised. They're dependent on a system because the system tells them everything they do. In my days, it was case conferences. Yeah, they'd tell you where you was going next. You're just born into this like paper exercise system. So what it was like I knew how to play the game. Yeah, I've been playing it for ages. Yeah, so prison became like it became comfortable. What was uncomfortable for me was outside because I
Yeah.
didn't know how to live in your world. Yeah, so I used to feel more comfortable when I went into prison. Sometimes it was like you go in a jail, yeah, and you go, just take a deep
Mm.
breath. Yeah, because it was just chaos. Yeah, and that was kind of it. Yeah, so I like went to Portland Young Offenders. Yeah, which was down on Portland Island. That was an experience. I was in Guy's Marsh. That was an open young person's prison. I went there twice. Got kicked out the second time. Put back into Portland into secure. I was in and out of Winchester. It was like a second home. Yeah. I also ended up being in Norwich prison. Yeah, when I was a juvenile as well. And then another juvenile place called Hollesley Bay, which is up in Suffolk. Yeah, so I've done quite a few rounds in just the youth justice system. Then what happened? And I was up to all sorts. Yeah, everything was going. Yeah, but I kind of found drugs when I was. I was doing drugs anyway, but I found drugs when I was 18 in a big way because the rave scene started. Yeah, so I started popping ecstasy like there was no tomorrow. Then I started selling the ecstasy and bang, bang, bang. I ended up getting a 3-year sentence for selling ecstasy when I was 20, so I turned 21. And then I went to another prison, which was called Wayland, which was a London dumping ground. And when I got to Wayland, it was predominantly black, yeah, and there was crack and heroin in there, yeah. And guess what? I went into the crack and the heroin, and during that sentence, I got a taste for crack and heroin. And so when I got out from that sentence, that was the next stage of my existence. And that's all it was an existence. So I became a heroin user within Portsmouth, but what it was because I was always one for selling drugs. Yeah, is I would be selling heroin to feed my own habit. Yeah, I wasn't a successful drug dealer. Not like it was always proclaimed out there. The successful drug dealers you don't even see. Everybody else is collateral damage. Yeah, they're just addicts trying to find a way to fund their habits. And that's how I funded mine. Yeah, so and that went right up until the age of about 29. And I'll just remember being in Winchester prison at the age of 29. I was coming off heroin, crack, Valium, alcohol. I was in a complete mess, and I just had this thought in my head and thinking, is this it? Is this my life? Prison, drugs, and crime, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that was when the first instances of change kind of came. But yeah, but that was like from childhood up to the idea of change.
Yeah. 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 Wow. So you talk a lot about, you're saying 29 years of age. You've been through all this, and it's what you've known: crime, drugs,
Yeah,
prison.
yeah.
So what was because that what was the turning point? Because that's a lot determination to. If that's all you've known for a long, long time, what made you? What was the change? What made you think, well,
Yeah.
something's got to change here?
So this is a really good question, and this will underpin why it is I do what I do, yeah, because this is all of it, yeah. So what it was like I looked in the mirror and just kind of thinking, there's got to be more to life than this, yeah. And so many people have said to me, Geff, you need a change, and I'll be like, no shit, Sherlock, I'll stick needles in my neck, but changing the what? What are you going on about? Yeah, I don't know any
Yeah.
other life. This is it. And I always used to hear that word rehabilitation. Yeah. And I struggle with that word rehabilitation. And it's because of this. Yeah. If you break your arm, you go to the hospital. Yeah. And they put a plaster on it. When the plaster comes off, yeah, you see the physio and they rehabilitate it so it works like it once did. What if it didn't work in the first place? Were you actually rehabilitating that too? So I had no concept of what it was that they
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah. Because I only knew this life. But what I did know was I needed to stop taking drugs, yeah? And I found out that they had these drug programs in the prison, yeah? So in my head, I thought, you know what? I'm going to go on one of these drug programs, yeah? But I didn't go on there because I wanted to be a law-abiding citizen. I went on there because I thought in my head, if I can get a handle on the drugs, when I get out, I can just sell them and not use them. Yeah. So I went on the program so I could be a successful drug dealer. That's why I went on there. That was my motivation. Everybody says you need a motivation to change. Let me tell you, that was my motivation. Right? And like, when I got on the program, they said to me, they gone, yeah, Gethin, we got this fella coming in. We want you to listen to him speak. And I've gone in there with the prison shoulders because you're always down the gym, giving it all that. Yeah. Anyway, I turned up, yeah. I looked at this bloke and I just thought, what do you know about me, mate? What do you know about my life? And then what he did was he started to share his story. I identified with parts of it, but not all of it. But at the end of it, he talks about he had this drug-free, crime-free, peaceful life. And he talks about that he had a family, he had a home, he went on holiday, he had a passport, driving license, bank account, all this normal stuff. My jaw hit the floor because I didn't believe that stuff was possible for somebody like me. And at that point, he showed me what change looked like. And that's why the program that we create within prison is called Hope, hearing other people's experiences. If they can do it, maybe I can too. Yeah. And for me, I wouldn't even know that bloke if I walked past him. Yeah. And I always say to people, you know, what is the value of a lived experience? I'll tell you what it is. It's a fishing hook. That's what you are. You're a fishing hook. And if you can hook somebody in, you can then hopefully maybe get them then to start to work with other areas of the system that may just be able to help them. And that's kind of what happened for me. Yeah. So I would like to say, yeah, my change was instant. Yeah, but it wasn't. Yeah. I went through a 5-year process of change. Yeah. And the way that I explain it to people is I said to you, you can find the first 35 years of my life in a filing cabinet somewhere. When I made a decision to change, I had to go through that filing cabinet. I had to understand who I was and what had happened to me. Yeah, I had to go through a transition and a complete shift and change in identity to who I once was to who I want to be now. Yeah, they talk about tearing back the fucking layers of an onion. Yeah, that was me. Yeah, to the core. And the thing with me as well is I didn't just do it like that. Yeah. So the other bit with me as well was my change had a lot of different relapses in it. Yeah. Whether that was relapses on drugs, whether it was relapses on behavior or whatever it was. Yeah. And the reason for that was because I couldn't go through it all in one go. It was too big. So, like in total, I'd done 8 different treatment programs and loads of one-to-one stuff. And it was as if I was doing a draw at a time. Yeah, because it was too big. I couldn't do it all. And that's the other thing what I try to teach professionals, yeah, because we got this thing of like where we think, oh, well, get them into this service here and they can work with this person for 6 months and then they're all going to be good and great. No, that's not going to happen. You're just a part of that individual's journey and they may learn something and take away something from you that they may be able to use in the next part of their journey.
Yeah, yeah. So what? That's interesting. So, like, what do you think it was? So then 5 years and then relapses. What made you sort of get back on the horse and go, do you know what? Fuck, no, I need to, what was that? Some people talk of it, don't having someone significant that helped them or supported them, but what did you have anyone with supporting you or how?
No, I not really. What I did, I had, so there's a lady called Joe Purdy. She's in my book, Inside Job. Yeah, Joe Purdy. I met at so I met Joe when I was in 2003, and I was getting out of that jail sentence. And she was a trainee social worker, and she was doing a placement at the substance misuse. She works really high up in the council in the NHS. She's still in Portsmouth as well. Yeah, so and what it was with Joe, yeah, she followed me through loads of different services I want, yeah. And what Joe did was she just stayed and was consistent all the way through it. Yeah, do you know what I mean? So she seen me relapse. That's not a problem, Gift. You can get back on yours. You can try again. Do you know what I mean? She didn't condemn me or anything like that. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I had certain
Yeah.
individuals around me like that. But there was another thing with me as well, yeah, right? And it was like in my head, I was like thinking, I ain't gonna fucking let a bit of powder beat me. I'm not going to let a bit of powder beat me, yeah. And the other thing was it as well, because people always used to say to me, "Oh, maybe you need to relocate, Giff, and go to another area," yeah, because that's what some people do as well. But what it was for me, yeah, coming through the care system, Portsmouth was my home, yeah. Not a home, the city was my home, yeah.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to be fucking chased out of this city, sorry to swear, by a bit of powder. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that was my kind of resilience and determination to keep going. Yeah. So I always used to say, what was my biggest gift? I wouldn't give up giving up. I wouldn't give up
Yeah.
giving. And when I do work with men now, yeah, you might like this one and your viewers might, yeah. So I always use the word fail. And fail stands for first attempt in learning. Yeah. When you try something, you learn one of two things. It works or it don't work. Yeah. Do you know WD-40?
I do. Yeah.
You know what it's called, WD-40?
No, I did know. Go on.
Yeah.
Sorry, someone's told me this.
Yeah, I think I told you when I met you last
But
time.
yeah, that's yeah.
It's water displacement 40. It was their 40th attempt. They
That's
failed
right. Yeah.
9 times before getting the fucking right set of lubrications that created a global model. Yeah. I always say to people, I had 50 attempts in learning. Yeah. But I didn't fail the same way twice. Yeah. I just kept learning till I got to that point and bang, that was it.
Yeah.
Off. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
And in some recovery cycles or change cycles, they say relapse is a part of recovery. Yeah, whatever it is, relapse is a part of recovery because and the reason for that is because it's a learning opportunity. We work in a system where we punish people for failing. Yeah, it's like, are you for real? Failing is a
Yeah.
part of learning. You need to nurture, take care, look after that person, get them to understand how and why they failed and what they can do next. Don't punish them for it.
Yeah, definitely. And so fail, first attempt in learning.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I love that saying. Brilliant. I'll remember the WD now. Yeah. Okay. Wow. So right, what a journey. So I guess how did unlock potential? How did that come about? Then unlocking potential. What made you?
Yeah. So I'll tell you. So I've got to lead up to it. Yeah. So when I actually got to the point of turning my life around, yeah, I had the best CV in the world. Yeah, I had 56 offences, 18 convictions, a dependent heroin user, no qualifications, and no work history. No one was queuing up to give me a job. All right. But what I did over a 7-year period, I went from 2 hours a week volunteering to 7 years later being a service manager within Portsmouth City Council, overseeing a staff team of 40 to reduce health inequalities to the most deprived area of the city and holding a £1 million a year budget. Yeah, okay. I
Yeah,
also
amazing.
educated myself to the equivalent of a degree and got an MVQ5 in leadership and management within children's services. All right. But I got to a point. Yeah, I got to a point of where I thought, do you know what? I'm doing all right here. Yeah, I kind of got a nice wage. I've got a pension and all that sort of stuff. But I thought, but am I really delivering on my purpose? And I started to struggle with what it was I was doing. And I felt like a lot of what I was doing was tokenistic. It was a token gesture. And the reason for it was because I was tied up in bureaucracy. And I was now working within a system that kind of held me back my whole life. And I just thought, I need to break out of this system. I need to break out of it. And Neil should have turned that off. 1 second.
That's right, mate.
It's me mum.
Hello.
It's me bloody mum. Yeah. Bless her. I'll say about my mum later. Anyway, that's a good thing. Everything we talked about as well. But I'll tell you about mum later. Anyway, let me just turn this off quickly as well. Doing this. So yeah, so I just felt everything was quite tokenistic, you know, and And then I thought I need to break out of it. So that's where I came up with the idea for unlocking potential. And what it was I'd progressed because I worked at Portsmouth Foyer. Yeah, I worked in a young person's hostel. I went in there part-time, full-time. Within 18 months, I got my first team leader post. And what became quite apparent was I was very, very good at training and developing staff on how to reach people that were kind of quite disadvantaged. But also as well, I never really shared my history with any of my colleagues. My managers knew it, yeah, but my colleagues never. Yeah. And what that kind of meant, it kind of gave me an opportunity to understand me, yeah, for me, yeah, but also as well not be stuck by with this label. Does that make sense? Yeah. And
Yeah.
so what it was because I had this level of awareness, people didn't know where it came from. People saw me as a real good source of information, yeah, because I was able to help them be able to develop and also as well explain why some of their clients might be acting in the way that they do. And so, yeah, and then what happened as well, so things happened. So I had that in my head that I knew that I was good at training staff up. And then what happened, I went off to this conference and I had to deliver a presentation at this conference. And it was to do with alcohol because I was part of the alcohol services at the time as well. And then afterwards, they had this after dinner speaker, yeah. And we sat there and he was talking about his life and his experience with drinking. Anyway, as he's speaking, in my head, I'm like thinking, I could do a better job than that. Yeah, I could do a better job than that. In my head, I thought, oh, that's just ego. Yeah, it's just my ego. Anyway, I was with this lady called Sue Atkins, who also worked with the alcohol services. And Sue went to me, she went, so what did you think of him then? I thought, yeah, he was all right, wasn't he? And she went, you could have done a better job than that. Yeah. And when she said it, I thought, that's what I could maybe do. So that's where the idea of unlocking potential came in. So one of it was about doing speaking, yeah, to people that are trapped within systems and also professionals, and also then trying to see if training professionals. And that's how unlocking potential came about. And that was, so the idea was about 10 years ago. I kind of set us up properly about 8 years ago. And to that day, I've worked in over 50 prisons in the UK. I've worked in prisons all across America. I've worked in prisons in Australia. In October, I'm doing the main keynote speech at the International Corrections Conference in Belfast, where they actually come in, the delegates, yeah, with like translators on their ears. My worry is, will they be able to translate Pompey?
Your Pompey accent. Squiddy, white geezer.
Yeah, so it blows me away, yeah, in relation to sort of like what I've been able to achieve, and you know, I say I'm a small company, but I've got a massive reach, yeah, and my brand spreads confidence, you know. But it's, and I think the people say, "Why are you so successful?" I think it's just because I just want to out. I just want to out. I just want to make a difference. That's what I want to do, and success is a byproduct, you know.
And you know, if you're going to talk about giving someone hope, or what you've been through to where you're at now is Christ is such a great role model in doing that, and it's the proof's in the pudding, isn't it? It's fantastic. So what's been your biggest achievement so far then, Gethin, would you say?
Do you know what, right? People always ask me this. I'll tell you what it is, yeah? It's relationships. It's relationships. That's all it is, yeah? That's my biggest... I believed, yeah, there was a time when I had no one, yeah? And I literally believed I couldn't have a relationship with anyone, yeah? So what happened was when I had that experience and when I said I wouldn't trust anybody ever again, I had an unconscious built-in mechanism that went like this. I will push you away before you push me away, and I'm going to hurt you before you hurt me. And that made me become really isolated and alone. And there were loads of people out there that wanted to love and care for me, but I just could not hold it. I couldn't have it here, yeah. Whereas today, my life is just filled with relationships, yeah. I've got an abundance of love around me, do you know what I mean? I've got my son and my daughter in my life, do you know what I mean? And, you know, and my daughter, she saw the worst of it. So when I turned my life around, she was 15. My son was 10, do you know what I mean? I've got them in my life, yeah, and I'll be with my daughter this afternoon when I'm going off to my friend's funeral, as I kind of shared about today. I'm going off to play to Bristol away with me boy at the end of August. You know what I'm saying? You know, I've got my granddaughter. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, that you know that she takes advice off me, but she's at that age as well. Like she's like, don't lecture me, don't do that. Yeah, do you know.
Yeah.
And I've got friends, friends that would just do anything for me, and I'd do anything for them, yeah. So that's my biggest achievement, really. Is
Yeah, yeah,
how to have relationships with people. Everything else is just like, yeah, it's lovely, but without people, it's nothing. Yeah, it is
yeah, yeah.
nothing. That makes sense. So that's
No, I
that's
love
my
that.
success.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah.
brilliant, brilliant. No, I love that. So what's your why? What gets you out of bed every morning, Gethin? What's your
So my why is it's all linked to injustice. Yeah, the injustice. I'm in a book by a gentleman called Chris Daw, and he's a KC. He was a Queen's Counsel, but now he's a King's Counsel. So he was a QC. He's now a KC.
oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
and he wrote a book called Justice on Trial. Yeah, and he's got me within the book. Yeah, and it's funny actually because when he kind of published it, the Guardian advertised it for it, and they put my story in the centre page of the Guardian. Yeah, that was quite. Ooh. But anyway, but it's justice on trial. So it's the injustice of the system. Yeah, so that's what gets me up in the morning. So you work with young people. Yeah, you do a lot of work with care experienced people, and I try to educate people. Yeah, because there's too many care experienced people within the prison system. I'll give you an example. Care leavers make up 1% of the population of the UK, just 1%. They make up over 40% of the youth justice system, 26% of the adult prison system. I know the hot numbers higher in the adult prison system, but once they get post 25, they no longer need to disclose. And the reason why they don't disclose is because they've already been labelled as troublemakers. Yeah. So what this says as a society is we see the vulnerability of a child. We then put them into the care system. They then respond negatively because of their trauma. We then punish and criminalize the behavior and then put them into another system. Yeah, they was doing it in my day. They was doing it today. So that's kind of the injustice that I try to get out of bed for. We got the education to prison pipeline. What we do with that is simple. Yeah, right, is kids that can't deal with home or because of trauma, we then exclude them. And once we exclude them, we then put them on a street corner. They got no parental support or around them and everything like that, and then they are acting out on their behavior. And guess what? We punish them as well. So it's all about injustice. Yeah. So I try to be able to campaign about how we can make a system that's fit for purpose, fairest for all, the people that work within it, the people that live within it, and the communities it serves. And for that to be able to happen, I like to look at how we can change policy, legislation, processes, but also as well, alongside of that, be able to help the people that are suffering from the injustice. And that's what gets me out of bed every day. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
yeah.
Brilliant. And so we're leading on to that. Talk to us a little bit about what other services unlocking potential to do, and how can people find you? What's your website?
Yes, my website is www.unlockingthepotential.co.uk. Okay, so we do a number of things. So we do consultancy. So like, if you really want to create a a project or a program or an organization that's really going to be able to make a difference, come and see us. Yeah, and we'll do some consultancy work with you. And our consultancy, we have what we call two sides of the same door. And what that means is you've got a lot of people with me that's a lived experience. You can see these on my website, but also as well, we've got lots of professionals. Yeah. So like we got ex-prison governors, we've got people that manage to run the whole of the youth justice system in the UK. We've got trauma-informed experts. We've got all of these people that can help you to create a system that's fit for purpose and fairest for all. We've also got a Hope license model. Yeah, so the Hope program is linked to my two books. My first book is called Inside Job. That's about shifting and changing mindset. And the second book is called How to Fuck Up and Still Succeed. Uh, and that's about once you've shifted to mindset, you're moving to action. But created this into a program which is called Hope, Hearing Other People's Experiences. And that program can be licensed to be able to use within your organization. The only requirement is you have to employ people with criminal convictions to run it. Okay, but I can help with that as well. And that's about giving people opportunities then post their life. And then the last thing we do is we do training. So we do how to create human-to-human relationships within secure environments or where there's a power imbalance. And we do that with frontline staff. And then we've also got a human-to-human leadership model as well that we do with leaders, because too many leaders hide I'll say that word again, behind professional processes, systems, and identities. And what we try to do is try to get the human being to lead from a human-centered way, but act in a professional way. So rather than lead with your title, lead with your humanity. And so yeah, that's what we do there. And yeah, like you say, you can find me on www.unlockingthepotential.co.uk.
Excellent. And we got loads of listeners and people on LinkedIn that are from children's care services, local authorities, and I know a lot of your services really complement that. So yeah, so look Gethin up and have a look of what they can offer you. So last question is you you know, life's quite chaotic, you know, everyone talks about mental health, well-being. I just wanted, what do you do for your own well-being, Gethin?
Oh, so I do what I call a pick and mix. Yeah, a
Okay.
pick and mix. Yeah, but yeah, I'll explain a bit of pick and mix in a moment. But yeah, so I'm a practicing Buddhist. Yeah, so I do a lot of Buddhism. So I do chanting and meditating most mornings. So I like to be able to do that. I live by the sea. Yeah, so I like to get out and be by the sea, be outside in fresh air. I also, as well, I do a cold shower every morning. Yeah, I've been
Nice.
doing
Yeah.
that for years now. But what it is I have my normal shower and then I turn it on freezing cold and boof, it kind of does like that. So what it is I've got like a menu of different things that can support me. And the reason why I call it a pick and mix, yeah, is because it changes. Because what happens is you can kind of get these self-care routines, but then actually the routine then becomes the problem, yeah, because it becomes too regimented. So then you have to shift and change things, yeah. So yeah, so I kind of a little bit of a pick and mix model, and I kind of shift and change it about as I need to, yeah. But the other thing that's really important for me as well is that I need to be around people and socialize because it can be quite a lonely place, yeah. But also at the same time as well, I also need to have my space. So it's the balance of sort of like being around people, but having enough space for me as well. But I think also, so I always say, you know, when I talk about leadership and management, I say the first person you need to learn to lead and manage is yourself. Because depending on how you are, is how you interact with everybody else around you, do you know? But what I also know as well from my own experience, and you'll probably know this as well, Gareth, and I think everybody should understand and know this as well, is it's a constant battle, yeah, to create that balance of self-care within your life. So the other thing I try to do is I try to take regular checks on how am I really, yeah, and what else might I need to be able to do. And some days I'm on point and it's absolutely brilliant. Other days I'm a gibbering wreck.
Yeah, yeah. No, definitely. I loved it. Pick and mix. That took me back then to Woolworths. I
Yeah.
remember the pick and mixes used to get as kids, but
Well,
uh,
I'd say this because when I do the training, and I do this as well with guys, I do it like this. I've got a quote card with it on as well. I said, like, when we're in a room, I said, if we all went and got a pick and mix, yeah, and emptied the bag out, there wouldn't be one bag that's exactly the same. Yeah. There'd be
yeah,
similarities, but they wouldn't be the same. Yeah. And that's the same with self care. It's different for everybody. But the other thing about it is if you went and got another pick and mix in 2 years' time and emptied it out, it'll be different because you change. Yeah. And
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah,
why I like to use the pick and mix because people are too rigid with stuff. Yeah. It's like,
yeah, yeah.
let yourself
I love
flow.
the way. Yeah, yeah, the way you explain that, definitely. I've got to ask actually before we end. Being a Pompey boy, it's like you say, the name Gethin Jones. That's not that Pompey, is it? Where's that come from?
Right. So I just say with my mum, just to say quickly, bless with my mum as well. Yeah. So even though I said the stuff
Yep.
with my mum, yeah, my mum was a product of her environment. Yeah. And I've got a great relationship with my mum today. My mum's in sheltered accommodation. Yeah. And I speak to my mum. I take care of my mum and I look after my mum. Yeah. The best way that I can. Okay. So yeah, she had her own stuff going on as well. Yeah. And I love my mum dearly. But what it was my mum, she met my dad, yeah, who was a Welshman that came from the Navy, that joined the Navy, yeah. So that's where I got the name Gethin Jones from, yeah. He gave me my
Okay.
name, yeah. I didn't really know him because, as I said, like he was an alcoholic and had disappeared. The second thing he gave me, yeah, was my height, yeah. So if anybody knows me, I ain't that tall, yeah. Like, 5'3" at a push, yeah. Anyway, he came down to join the Navy as a submariner, yeah. And I'm like, Mum, Why couldn't you have picked a Marine? Yeah.
Yeah.
Gave me my name and my height. And let me just tell you this as well, Gareth, yeah. I actually blame my name, yeah, for me being such a shit criminal growing up as a kid, yeah. Because when you was out getting into bother, if the police nabbed your mate, they'd go, who was it? And they'd go, it was Gethin. And there was
Yeah. There was only one. Yeah.
brother's name was Dave. They go, it was Dave. They go, Dave who?
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. True story. Love it. Okay, mate. Well, look, Gethin, thanks for your time. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate your honesty and sharing your journey with us, and being open and transparent. And yeah, thanks, mate. And we'll catch up soon. Thank you very much. See you later.
Thank you. See you later.